The Dawning, Destiny's annual holiday event, has returned for the third year, I guess technically second year, but 3 years, bringing with it Mayhem Crucible, a bunch of snowballs, a hockey rink, and a slew of Eververse items. Let's cover the good first. Mayhem Crucible in Destiny 1, at least for me, was miserable. Golden Gun was everywhere, and unless I was playing a hunter, I was miserable, and I never wanted to play it. Ever. I just didn't find it fun at all. Mayhem Crucible in Destiny 2, at least for me, has resulted in a complete 180. I cannot stop playing Mayhem Crucible. And you gotta understand, I absolutely did not like Mayhem in Destiny 1. This isn't even some fond memories kind of stuff happening. Even in solo queue, I was playing very late into the night, having a lot of fun. I have no idea what happened, but I can take some guesses. Number 1, the current state of PvP highly incentivizes sticking with your teammates at all times, rarely branching off unless under a coordinated attack. Time to kill times are slower than they were in Destiny 1 on average, although this isn't something I really mind too much, so that is also part of the incentive to stick together. But now, with the ability to have your super several times per game, that fear of branching away from teammates dissipates. You have the ability to do cool plays. You have the ability to go off on your own and not feel like you're going to instantly die. There aren't the massive stakes from regular PvP where you're only getting your super once or twice per game and usually at the same time as everybody else. You can waste a super and not feel bad about it. It feels like Destiny 1 again, in that I don't feel the need to stay glued to the hip of a teammate. Number 2, 4v4 just feels like it works better with this game mode, on top of some changes done to how supers interact with other supers. 6v6 Mayhem was truly mayhem, and on certain maps like Sector 618, it was impossible to do anything. 4v4 just feels better for this kind of mode. It's chaotic, sure, but it feels more manageable, even on the smallest of maps. It just works better, or feels like it works better. While gunslingers and night stalkers are still everywhere, I played for 3 to 4 hours as a Dawnblade Warlock, and I was still having a blast playing Mayhem. However, I still am convinced that if you play Night Stalker and Mayhem, you hate fun and you will die alone, so have fun, you dweeb. That being said, I cannot give too much credit to Bungie for bringing back something that we already had in Destiny 1, regardless of how fun it ended up turning out for me personally. I was expecting something that I would do purely for engrams, and I ended up with something that yet again stopped me from fixing my sleep schedule. I hope we see Mayhem return to Destiny 2 with a bit more frequency. Snowballs, while nothing crazy, do make activities a bit more festive, and the snowballs themselves are actually really effective. They're basically the equivalent of a flashbang grenade. Yeah, flashbang grenades in PvE. Remember when those were a thing to use? They're still really good, by the way. I can appreciate whatever effort went into completely covering enemies in snow when they're hit by a snowball. Even bosses are covered in snow. That's a nice little touch. My only gripe is the 10-second cooldown. I get that they're enabled in Nightfall and Prestige Nightfall, and those activities give you powerful gear drops and stuff like that. But I hope for at least the final week of the event, Bungie just gets rid of the cooldown completely and lets people go berserk. Heroic strikes are not hard at all. People are just blasting through them without killing stuff anyway. You might as well let us snowball the crap out of everything. They're not enabled in the raid, which I'm okay with. I get that raids are supposed to be a bit more of a serious activity. We also have the hockey rink at the farm. I have not really participated in the hockey rink, but I'm sure it's fun. Then we have the daily gift quests from Ikora, where you go kill a bunch of very specific dudes, and then you gather a bunch of planetary materials, 10 planetary materials, to make a gift, where you will then give the gift to an NPC. They will give you a gift in return, which is essentially a modified Dawning package with most of the cool items, besides maybe the sword and the shaders, removed. Which brings us to the microtransaction part of the event. Eververse is stocked up with new, exotic, and legendary items, and an armor set for each class, although a lot of the ships and sparrows just vary in the floral pattern they have spray painted on them. You do not receive Dawning Engrams for leveling up. You still receive the regular Season 2 Engrams. If you don't want to spend any money, here's how you can get Dawning Engrams. You got your one freebie when the event started. I don't know if that's a weekly freebie or just one for the whole event. Then the first time you do the 5 Mayhem, 5 Strike milestone linked to the Dawning, you get Dawning Engrams. So you get one for the 5 Mayhem and one for the 5 Strikes. The second time I did my 5 Mayhem milestone, the first one was on my Titan, the second one on my Warlock. The second time I did it, I received, I think, some shaders, and that was it. No actual Dawning Engram. So assuming the milestones reset weekly, you'll be able to get 6 boxes total from that milestone, then 1 freebie, maybe 3 total freebies if it's weekly, so 7 to 9 boxes if you do everything. Which, to be fair, it's not really that hard to do 5 Mayhem Crucible matches and 5 Heroic Strikes in a week. It's really not. It'll take you 2 hours total per week. Like I mentioned earlier, the daily Ikora gifts that you can get pull from a different loot pool. The loot pool isn't too different, it's just a reduced item pool with a sword and certain class items being unique to these boxes. You can't get them anywhere else. This loot pool is so different though that the shaders you get from them don't even stack with the shaders you get from actual Dawning Engrams. In a world where people are complaining about vault space, that is not good. And here's the real kicker. The shaders you get from the daily quest, when dismantled, give you legendary shards, while the shaders from engrams give you bright dust. How much bright dust? 7. 7 bright dust. So, Bungie wanted to stop people from grinding the daily gifts for bright dust in case people are insane enough to just mass delete a limited time shader for 7 bright dust. Let's say you do all 63 potential daily gifts and get 2 shaders out of them every single time. That's 126 shaders times 7. That's 882 dust, which will barely be enough to buy maybe 1 armor piece depending on what it is. Really? Really with that? You're gonna develop split currencies over a potential 900 bright dust for insane people who do 63 dailies? Give me a break. This is just being petty. Here I thought it was Bungie's chance to show a little solidarity with the community. Say, hey, we hear you about microtransactions. We're gonna cut back a little bit, throw some more holiday cheer at you guys, give you more options to get some of the cool stuff from the Dawning, and maybe start to build back some of that community goodwill that Bungie doesn't really have anymore. Instead, we get the most complex systems Destiny has ever seen in the game, except it's with a limited time Eververse event instead of, I don't know, more permanent things in the game. If Bungie's version of throwing us a bone is being able to buy stuff with bright dust, then I don't know. I mean, I still play a lot, and I only have about 2,000 bright dust on PC. If I dismantled everything that I have right now, I could probably buy a full armor set. Does anything from the Eververse itself actually matter though? No, not really. I'm mad just about the principle of it all. There's no effort being shown that this is even an issue for players, and that's what I have a problem with. I understand the solution isn't as simple as just get rid of the Eververse store, throw everything into the game, because the game doesn't support that kind of solution at this time. I think the game would need more activities or events to make those items more meaningful or to give them more prestige instead of them just being tossed in at the end of Heroic Strikes or easy content. Reducing the content of the Eververse store in favor of making it more accessible in-game is only part of the potential solution, not the entire thing. The Dawning technically started in the Taken King era with SRL, Sparrow Racing League, a new activity. The Dawning 2016 Rise of Iron Edition came with a good amount of stuff. SRL returned with new maps, strike scoring was added to strikes and was an improvement over the previous Prison of Elders scoring, and it stayed after the event ended. 3 strikes were refreshed and reintroduced into the playlist with improved boss fights. The record book, which was a thing back in Destiny 1 that tracked a whole bunch of statistics and progress on stuff, was updated with new objectives to complete. This year's Dawning is mayhem, a hockey rink, and snowballs. Yeah. I know people didn't really care about strike scoring at all, and people kind of got over SRL somewhat quickly, but this year's Dawning makes last year's Dawning look like an expansion by comparison. I was actually watching my video from last year, and here's what I had to say about microtransactions last year. Microtransactions appear to be much more forgiving this time around. I'm not sure if this has been the norm, but I had a friend tell me that they managed to get both sets of armor in 9 treasure boxes. At first glance, it doesn't appear that it'll take you a ton of boxes to get a full armor set, and you can get, I think, 6 to 8 boxes for free. 3 weeks from Heroic Strikes, and then 3 from hitting rank 5 SRL per character, on top of a chance to get them in the big gift boxes that open with the tags. I haven't bought any just yet myself, but even still, the microtransactions are a little bit more forgiving, not only because it seems more likely to get stuff that you actually want, but because there are actually things to do in the game in this event. It doesn't feel like I'm just being sold microtransactions. Here's what I had to say about microtransactions last year. Wow, that's a great point that I made. Me. Thanks. Myself. The microtransactions last year felt complementary to the things added in the Dawning last year. This year, microtransactions feel like the main focus. This Dawning event in general just goes to show that Bungie's main focus is still microtransactions at every turn. Their meeting us halfway moment is being able to buy armor with Bright Dust. I spoke to people yesterday who already spent a bunch of money on the event, so I don't even really know why I'm bothering to discuss this. It feels hopeless. People are still going to buy microtransactions in droves, and until that stops, this trend is just going to continue forever. I understand that at the end of the day, none of this crap really matters at all. Armor sets, ghost shells, ships, whatever. Doesn't matter. It's just the principle of it all. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.